Okay, looks like we are rolling. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your buddy Jake Dominguez back with another movie review. And today I'm going to review pretty much the very first movie that I was most excited to see in the year 2018, Paddington 2. Now, this movie just barely came out in the United States of America just a day or two ago, and I was able to see it today. This movie was already released in the UK back in, I think, November sometime of last year. So, a lot of you watching this video may have already seen this movie, depending on where you live at the time I'm recording and filming this. But we just got it here in January, here in the United States, and I was so excited to see it. I heard very great things, from when it was released in the UK. It did very well over there. Obviously, Paddington is even more popular over there than it probably is here in the States. And I loved the first Paddington movie, so I was so excited to see this movie. And here, January tends to be the dumping ground for movies here. We always get kind of the lame movies that no one really knows what to do with. We get kind of generic whatever films. I mean, people don't usually go to the movies in January in particular, right? I mean, it's right after the holidays where we all went to see all the new movies that came out. I think the average person doesn't go see movies in January. I mean, I don't know. If I look at statistics, maybe I'm wrong, but that seems to be the case. So it was great that we finally got a movie that I actually heard great things about, that is getting great reviews, actually in January. That doesn't happen often, so I'll take it when I can get it. I'll take a great movie in January any day of the year. Well, I guess I can... Technically, there's only like 31 days in January, so that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean. Anyway, Paddington 2. So this is, of course, the sequel to the 2014 movie based on Michael Bond's classic character that he made so many books about, Paddington the Bear. And it's a sequel that takes place with him living with the Brown family still, and he gets into a little bit of a bunch of misadventures here in classic Paddington style. He is framed for a crime that he didn't commit, and he has to go to prison. Pretty scary stuff, but this is Paddington we're talking about. This is a children's family movie about a talking bear. It's not as scary as it sounds. But anyway, it's like movie children's film version of prison, you know? And he goes there, it's really scary, and it cuts to the Brown family who are trying to figure out who framed Paddington for this crime. And tons of fun, family-friendly misadventures ensue. Now, like I said, I loved the first Paddington movie, which came out a few years ago, 2014 again. That was a big surprise. I had no intentions of seeing it. I didn't see it in theaters. I only saw it after I heard really good things about it from lots of people. So I did watch it, and yeah, it was a great movie. I might be wrong, but I think it was the most successful film that was made in the UK that year. I think it was... If it wasn't the most successful, it was one of the most successful. That was a great family movie. You know, it's a movie for kids, it's a movie for families, and it still works. It's actually a very well-made movie. It's cute, it's genuinely really funny, it's heartwarming, it has great messages for kids and stuff like that, and it's just a well-made movie. And the same could be said here. Paddington 2 is just as good, and just as surprisingly good, as the first film. These movies should not be as good as they are, but they're very well made. Now, I'm not very familiar with the Paddington character. I don't think I've ever read any of the books. I don't recall having them read to me as a kid. I'm pretty unfamiliar with the character. All I know is the first Paddington movie. I didn't go in knowing all the references to the books and stuff like that. And I'm the same here, so I couldn't tell you how, from that perspective. I'm viewing it from that perspective, someone who's unfamiliar with the character. Having said that, I still enjoyed this film just as much as the first one. I might have even liked it just a little bit better. Again, I'll say it again, this movie shouldn't be this good. It's a miracle that these Paddington films aren't just like an Alvin and the Chipmunks style kind of like kids movie. You know what I mean? Remember when those Alvin and the Chipmunk movies came out? I think the last one was made like in 2015 or something. They made like 4 of them, right? And, you know, they make Alvin and the Chipmunks CGI, and they sing popular hit songs. There's a bunch of really crude humor. It's not funny. They're really not very good. I mean, they are what they are. I only saw, like, the first two of them, which was enough. And they are what they are, but they're definitely made for very little kids. And if you're adults, there's not much to have there. And it's, for me, I was just kind of bored by them. I'm not trying to diss those movies. I'm just saying they weren't for me, obviously. Paddington and Paddington 2, you can watch as an adult and enjoy just as much. This movie has great morals for kids about family and loyalty and honesty, being polite, and stuff like that. But it's also really well directed. Now, this is written and directed by Paul King. He also directed and co-wrote the first film. I think he was a co-writer on this movie too, actually. I'm not too familiar with his other works. Apparently he directed one other movie besides Paddington and Paddington 2, and I really need to see it. Because this movie is very well directed. It's beautifully shot. Eric Wilson, who was the director of photography on the first film, photographs this one, and it is lovely. It's actually a really beautiful film. This is a well-directed movie. And again, you can tell that these filmmakers love this character. This isn't just a cash-in or movie for little kids. They're taking what worked about the source material, which again, like I said, I'm not too familiar with. But from what I can tell and what I know, they're taking what works from the source material, putting it on the big screen, and making it actually work as a great film. And I appreciate that. There's nothing wrong with silly movies that are just for little kids. We all loved them when we were little kids. We all had those movies we loved as little kids, and you watch them as adults, it's like, this doesn't hold up. But so it's kind of nice to have a movie that I can watch as an adult that's a children's film and still really enjoy. I saw this movie, Paddington 2, today with my little sister. She loved the movie. There was a bunch of other kids in the theater as well. They all seemed to really love it as well. And so did the adults. There was even a little bit of clapping after the movie ended. Isn't that all you really need? So this movie is very well made. And it's pretty much the same as the first film. It's the same tone. There's some very funny stuff. A lot of the actors are coming back. A lot of great actors like Hugh Bonneville, Sally Hawkins, Brendan Gleeson is in this movie. He wasn't in the first film, but he's in this movie, and he's really funny. I really liked how they used his character. Julie Waters comes back. Jim Broadbent comes back. It's a great cast. They're all really funny, just as great as they were in the first film. But the person who really stole the show from me was Hugh Grant. He's the villain in Paddington 2, and he plays like an actor who used to be really famous and well-regarded, but has fallen on the downside, and he's pretty much the villain in this movie. Hugh Grant is really hilarious in this movie. He's really funny. This is the best I've seen him in a long time. I mean, I've always liked Hugh Grant just fine, but man, he is really funny in this movie. He's great, and you can tell that he's having fun. And you gotta respect him as an actor, because he definitely has some fun with his character in this role, and he has to do some pretty silly, awkward things, especially a lot of silly, awkward costumes and stuff like that. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And good for him for being in on the joke, being willing to have fun with it, and that sort of thing. He was super great in this movie. I was really impressed. And again, Ben Whishaw. Is it Ben Whishaw or Winshaw? I think it's Ben Whishaw. He's in this film as Paddington. He does the voice role, and he is just as perfect in the role of Paddington as he was in this first film. He just feels perfectly cast, he just has a sweet voice. I don't know how to explain it, but he's great in this role. I really enjoyed him as Q in the James Bond movies that he was in. That's what I mostly know him for, but he does a great job as Paddington. Overall, this movie is exactly what you want in a family film. It has great morals, it has great messages, it's entertaining, and it's also a very well-written script. The story structure of this is really good. There's a lot of really great flourishes, it's really well-directed. And it's just a fun, entertaining movie. At the end of the film, I actually got kind of emotional. I mean, I didn't, cry or anything, but I was still like, oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome. It's kind of like what Disney and Pixar do so well. You know what I mean? When Pixar's at their best, and they're doing something like Coco, especially. I haven't done a review for Coco yet, but what a great movie. That same just the feels you get while watching a good family movie. That was The End of Paddington 2 for me. It was just very heartwarming, and I really enjoyed this film a lot. I don't have even a ton of flaws with it. I guess the only biggest flaw I can think of is that there are a few little plot points that are a little predictable. You know, if you've seen movies before, you can look at a few things and think like there's a character that makes a decision kind of in the third act, and it's like, oh, okay, I know that he's gonna, yeah, I know. No spoilers, obviously, but there's a few things like that, but then you have the flip side of that is like, are kids gonna care? Are they gonna notice that beforehand? Probably. Probably not. I mean, you know, that for the adults, there's a few things that are kind of predictable, but you're having so much fun, you don't really care about it. So I'm going to give Paddington 2 a grade of an A-. Again, this movie is so much better than it needs to be. And I really enjoyed it. I had tons of fun with it. There is some genuinely great filmmaking in this movie, and I really, really enjoyed it. One more thing. The author and creator of the Paddington, his name is Michael Bond, passed away just this last year, and this film is dedicated to him, which is really sweet and really appropriate. It's great that his character is still living on, and it gets a couple of great movies, you know, to kind of live on his legacy. So that's really sweet. That's really awesome. I would highly recommend seeing the first Paddington and see this movie. It is a very great film. I highly recommend them. That's my review of Paddington 2, guys. Let me know what you thought of this movie down in the comments section below if you've seen it, because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Get prepared for a few new movie reviews coming up very soon, and thank you so much for watching this video. It means the world to me. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And never forget, I'm your friend. I'm always going to be there for you. Thank you so much for being my friends. You guys are awesome, and I will see you next time.